Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my December wrap-up. I had a bit of a chaotic December, like every human that celebrates Christmas. It's the nature of the beast, really. So, yeah. I also had to, rush to try and finish loads of books so that I could complete my challenge of 52 books in a year. Basically, manga and graphic novels that saved me, because I have been in a reading slump pretty much for most of the year. Ironic, really, when you're a librarian, you're surrounded by books, but since having that job, you don't read as much. It's funny. So the books I read, there were a couple of graphic novels. One of them had barely any words in it. Someone returned it at the library and oh, it's really pretty, but there's hardly any words. I was like, yes, let me quickly read that so that I can add that to my reading challenge. That's Crushing, an illustrated misadventure in love and loneliness by Sophie Burrows. It was alright. Kind of cute, kind of pointless. But yeah, added it to my challenge. Then I read volume 2 of the Dungeon Club, Time to Party. It's just basically a cute graphic novel about a group of kids that play Dungeons and Dragons at their school. They're nerds. They're kind of trying to navigate high school. It's cute, and yeah, I like it. It's for kids. Who cares? What else did I read? Yes. Finally finished reading American Psycho, aka The Diary of a Trump Supporter. This basically what it feels like reading this. I did start reading it physically and tabbing it with basically, I was trying to colour code tabbing, because normally I just put a random sticky note in there because I like the prose or a particular device, but I was trying to do it in a way that, because there's a lot of devices at work in Bret Easton Ellison's novel. So there's foreboding, there's comments about homeless people, racism, there's sort of, very infamously, I would say, comments on clothes and material possessions, because that's one of the things that made me basically spend half the year trying to read this, because it's just so slow when every 5 seconds Patrick Bateman stops to tell you what someone is wearing, where it's from, what shade of colour it is. So yeah, I got up to page 90 reading it physically and just put it down for a while, because I think what was also annoying is tabbing it. There's a device every 5 seconds, because this basically is an English literature student's dream novel to use for evidence for analysis, because on every single page there's some evidence for some plot device to talk about the ideas of the novel of excess, self-obsession, sort of the nastiness of narcissistic America. So it was a bad mistake trying to analyse this novel, because it kind of made me hate fucking reading it. So towards the end of the year, I decided, I think it just popped up on Spotify as an audiobook, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to finish it. Because at this point, at page 90, he hasn't killed anyone or been completely fucked up. And I was thinking, is everyone mad saying that this is a disturbing novel? Because I remember I put out a poll on my Instagram asking people, out of 3 weird books, what one shall I read? And everyone was like, American Psycho! Go for it, do it, do it! And I was just at page 90, I was thinking, have I trusted the wrong people? Should I be listening to other people when I'm finding it hard to find joy in reading myself? But lo and behold, start listening to the audiobook, and probably the next chapter, so if I just continued reading a little bit more, it starts to get fucked up. I think it's a better experience listening to it on audiobook than reading it, for the very fact that, I think I've said this before with other novels, when it's a first person narrative, listening to someone narrate it to you always feels kind of, I guess, a more intimate experience, like they're telling you their story. And it's wild listening to this. So I think the other one I said that about was Lolita, which again is wild to listen to as an audiobook. But this, Jesus Christ. Sitting idle in traffic as Patrick Bateman describes all the ways that he is fornicating with several prostitutes is an interesting experience, especially when your car always steams up and you have to have a window open. Very, very interesting experience to be listening to such material with innocent bystanders walking past your car. Yeah. Basically, it's very graphic. It's, well, classed as a postmodern novel, which I would say very much is, because it kind of goes to places no other book has ever been before, which is an interesting thing to say when I've read a couple of J.G. Ballard novels, which go to places that novels should never go. But this, there's a scene, and it's kind of scarred me for life, the same way The Story of an Eye, it put me off of eggs for a while. If you've read and you know, you know. This kind of made me think twice about eating brie for a while, because there's a chapter involving a rat, a woman, and brie. And a power drill. Do you need me to describe it to you? No, you don't. Read at your peril, or listen at your peril. And it's a good book, but it's also not. Because I think, and I get exactly why Ellis describes clothing so much and drops brand names every 5 seconds. It's to put a point across of the materialism of upper class America. It's the idea, I mean, Patrick Bateman says it several times, or at least in the movie he definitely does, I just want to fit in. Everyone wants to be like each other, and that's another plot device, is everyone mistakes each other for everyone else. So every 5 seconds it's like, oh, is that blah, blah, blah? No, it's not blah, 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 it's blah, blah, blah. And it's just like everyone, nobody knows who each other are, because most of the time they all look the same. They're all white, upper-class, rich men doing the same things, wearing the same stuff, doing the same job, completely useless to society as a whole, really. And yeah, it's hilarious and dark, and like I said earlier, definitely weird reading it now as we're about to go into the second term of Donald Trump as president, when Patrick Bateman idolises the fuck out of that man and is obsessed with him and like often talks about him and like wants to get to his parties, and it's a kind of nauseating. But it's kind of crazy reading it now, knowing all of the shit that this depraved little weasel man has done to society. And the irony is not lost, the fact that this depraved psycho idolises another psycho. So yeah, it's an interesting read at this time of the present, and kind of still very much feels relevant in its critique of capitalism and the narcissism of high society, the finance bros and all that jazz. But yeah, so an interesting read, and I'm glad that I finally did finish it. Next, I read a short story. So this is a collection of short stories. I haven't read the whole thing. So this is Mary Gaitskill's Bad Behaviour, and I read one particular short story because I saw the movie that it's based on, Secretary, last month. No, the month before that. We're in January now, so it was in November. And so I read the short story Secretary that the Hollywood movie is based on. And let me just say, it's totally different, but kind of also the same up to a certain point. In this, it's basically very explicitly a Me Too story, before Me Too was a thing, but there's sexual assault in it, and it kind of ends after a certain point in the movie where something happens, and they chose to take a very different route indeed. Hollywood, idolising the the corruptness of a older boss coercing. Yeah, it's a bit icky after you've read this, but I mean I still like the movie, and I guess it's kind of a Hollywood fantasy of a particular relationship, but this kind of leaves you thinking, oh god, this woman literally is sexually assaulted at work, she quits her job, and then she just sits, I think, in her basement just thinking about it, and it's just like, whoa. It kind of then sinks in how sinister and like life-changing a moment like that is for someone that's gone through it. And yeah, it's wild that someone read that short story and thought, yeah, let's turn it into a rom-com. So interesting. I'm going to probably try and read some more of these short stories at some point, but I don't know when. But yeah, I thought I'd just drop that in there. Then the next book I read, I actually forgot to talk about starting this in November, was Mercy of the Gods, I think. Let me just quickly look at me tracker. Yeah, The Mercy of the Gods by James S.A. Corey. So it's like two authors writing under one name who are responsible for The Expanse series of books, and which was turned into a TV show. And I think allegedly this novel, or I think it's a trilogy at the moment, or will become a trilogy because only one book has been out. Oh my god, my hair. Only one book has been out so far. Yes, it's those people that wrote this book. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I really enjoyed this. I love anything involving aliens, first contact, and how that is explored through the eyes of sort of seemingly everyday humans. Although the people in this are actually like scientists, they're kind of like very intelligent people kind of thrown into a catastrophe. So basically the story is, I think, is it Aegean? I think that's the name of their planet. So they are kind of the result of humanity leaving Earth and populating other worlds. And so these people live on the planet Aegean. I've forgotten what the name is. That's the danger of leaving about a month in between. And I read it on audiobook. So I don't have any materials to refer back to. I could just look it up on the internet, couldn't I? Rather than rambling and trying to say the right thing. Aegean. Yeah, so basically there's a group of scientists who are like quite famous in their world for being prolific and cool, kind of like rock stars, but they're scientists. And then at some point in the first chapter or so, this disgusting sort of imperial race of aliens invade their world, kidnap the best and brightest, and ship them off to kind of prove their worth to this imperial alien race called the Carracks. And basically it's the story of survival, and the main point of view is this guy called Daffyd, who is basically a research assistant, but he only got the job because his parents or his aunt or something helped him get the job, so he's like a little nepo baby. And he's kind of out of his depth, but he's quite intelligent in the way, not necessarily to do with numbers and stuff, but socially intelligent. So he starts to explore ways to gain favour with this alien race and the other races that serve them, and kind of uses that to his advantage to kind of politically manoeuvre humanity into as a way of survival. But yeah, it's a really interesting narrative that kind of looks at how you basically sometimes have to sell your soul to survive. And I really enjoyed the characters, and kind of very human, which, I mean, I guess that's why we write science fiction, is to explore the facets of humanity and kind of explore how we are and what we are in this current reality of ours, but making it more fantastical. So yeah, definitely recommend it if you enjoy First Contact and sort of very human stories about people trying to overcome very, very bad odds. What else did I read in December? I had less than 24 hours to read something to hit my goal, so I read a World of Warcraft comic on the Internet Archive. Because, yeah, fabulous. Reading for the sake of reading, not reading to actually achieve anything. But anyway, this is a nice segue into other things that I was doing for most of December. So I played a lot of World of Warcraft, and I would just like to show you this very cute fox that I got shipped from America, because it's actually like one of the pets you can have in World of Warcraft. It's my favourite pet, Shadow. So I, as a 31-year-old woman, decided that I was going to spend too much on a cute, cuddly toy from a video game that I enjoy. Anyway, yeah, so I played a lot of video games in December, mainly World of Warcraft, because there's like loads of events going on. So it was like the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft, and the 30th anniversary overall of the universe, which is kind of crazy. It was also like Winter Veil, which is basically Christmas. So there were like tasks you could do to get cool prizes and stuff. So yeah, I basically did that. And then there was also an update with a new island to explore. So I, did that. I finished Veilguard, which was fun. But I'm going to leave it a little while before I do another playthrough because I feel like I need to go back and do another playthrough of Inquisition, because like loads of people are saying that if you romance Solus, like the evil elf in Inquisition, there's like an interesting ending in thingy, Veilguard, so I'm gonna have to do that and play through both of them to get the interesting. But yeah, so that's like all the games I've been playing. Oh, and I did start playing Mass Effect, but it's kind of scary. Like, I find like fantasy games are easier to play in terms of I don't know, like they don't scare me as much. Whereas science fiction games, like I remember when I used to play Halo as a teenager, like the Swarm used to scare the shit out of me. Like just mutated humans coming running at you. So Mass Effect, because it kind of feels more deadly than the fantasy games that I've been playing. I've kind of slowly started playing. I think I've only played like 7 hours of it because I'm a baby. But yeah. I'm excited to kind of delve into that. It's by the same studio that actually made Dragon Age, so I'm like a bit of a, I don't know who they are. I'm a simp for that studio at the moment. But yeah, let's get on to movies. I didn't really watch that much movies. That sentence does not make sense. I didn't really watch many movies in December. Like some of them were just like family movies because it's like the Christmas time. So, like, you watch a movie with your family, and I wouldn't necessarily have watched some of these movies on my own. In fact, I know I wouldn't have. Right, so the first film I saw in December was Queer by Luca Guadagnino. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was beautiful and sad and just stunning to look at. Like, there's a scene where he's walking through streets filled with blossom. Gorgeous. Then there's like another scene where he's like in his apartment feeling sorry for himself, Daniel Craig's character, and he's just like staring into space, and it just lingers on him for quite a while, and it kind of shows the power of the performance that Daniel Craig gives in this film, that it's interesting to watch him sit there and contemplate and kind of just feel distraught. But essentially this is a film about a American expat who lives in Mexico. I mean, I hate the fact that if you're white, you're an expat. If you're a person of colour, you're an immigrant. So let's just call him an immigrant in Mexico, because that's basically what he is. And so he is a writer in this. I think it's like based on a novel by Hunter S. Thompson. So like the characters are kind of real but fictional. And he kind of has a moment of insta-love with this young American photographer, and he courts him, and they end up having kind of a relationship together, but it's kind of like a bit problematic. And at some point they go to South America to try and find a plant that has hallucinogenic properties, so that they can get closer to each other, and kind of what the Daniel Craig's character, I've forgotten his name, is searching for is basically like telepathy between a lover and yourself through basically getting high. And there's a stunning, beautiful, very powerful and kind of metaphorical scene where they're tripping and like their bodies meld with each other. So like skin kind of like looks like it's inside another part. It's just like they dissolve into each other. And it's kind of like the idea that with a lover you want to kind of almost become one being, I guess. And it looks stunning and beautiful, and it's just like a very honest and kind of crazy moment that I thought was just stunning. It's a beautiful film, and it kind of gets very fucking sad at the end. But no, a beautiful movie overall. I feel like Luca Guadagnino can do no wrong in terms of direction. Like, he's a very clever and just a very reliable director. Like, there's certain directors that are attached to projects and you know they're going to do a good job. Talking of Luca Guadagnino, he's actually going to be directing a new version of American Psycho. And before reading this, I didn't think that was a good idea, because obviously the Christian Bale, Mary something, oh god, I'm so bad that I don't know the female director's name. Oh, I will insert it here. Version, because it's kind of like perfect, but after reading it glosses over so much. But like, I don't necessarily want to see the scene with a rat, Brie and a woman, but I feel like it could get darker, so I'm interested, and it would be interesting to see what Guadagnino brings to it, and like, would it kind of feel a bit more surreal, because some of his works recently have that surrealness to it. And like, kind of, yeah, it will be interesting. But yeah, back to the movies I've seen. The next film I saw was The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. It's an anime movie, and I kind of fucking hated it. I thought it was boring. Like, for a good majority of the movie, I was thinking, what's the point of this? And like, we're just basically doing the greatest hits of the Two Towers. When we get to Helm's Deep, it's basically the Two Towers, the battle. It was such an unnecessary film. And like, upon further inspection, they basically made this film, like the people that hold the rights, made the film so they could keep hold of the rights. So it's basically a bollocks movie. And you can tell. Like, it looks cute, like, anime is an interesting style to tell Tolkien stories in, but it was just empty, and it was too long. Like, just, yeah, it was a misfire, definitely, which is a shame. So yeah, very disappointed in that. The next film I saw was Sonic 3. Sonic and the Hedgehog 3. I took my little sister to see this movie because she's a massive Sonic fan, and she'd been like telling me, oh, it's coming out in the cinema soon, like, over and over again. I was like, okay, I'm going to take you because you're really passionate about it. And yeah, so we went to see the movie. I mean, it had Keanu Reeves in it, so it was all right, but he wasn't actually in it. He was like one of the voices of the hedgehogs, which was a shame. It's bonkers. I don't really have an opinion on the movie because it served the purpose, which was to entertain, and my sister loved it, so that's all that matters. The next film I saw, again, another film that I wouldn't have gone to see necessarily. Well, it was actually, I watched it at home, but on Christmas Day, I think, was Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I am British, but I hate Wallace and Gromit. I know, sacrilege, right? I fucking hate the faces. Like, that was a problem with Chicken Run as well. It's like the weird little faces that they have, that they look perpetually constipated and just weird. And like, basically, Wallace is a piece of shit. Gromit should fucking like just go out on his own and live away from just this douchebag that basically takes him for granted. Just infuriating to watch. Yeah, whatever. It's so obvious where it was going, and like, just, yeah. I mean, I guess it's for kids, isn't it? Boring. And then the final film of the year I actually saw was on Boxing Day, and that was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I've watched this about 1,000 times. It was literally a film that raised me as a kid. And out of the 3 original Indiana Jones film, growing up, it was my favourite. I don't know why. I think it's because it was darker, and I was interested the fact that it took us to India. And I've always kind of been like fascinated by other cultures growing up, but nowadays you can kind of look at it and think, Jesus Christ, white saviour narrative ticks every box of that. After kind of studying colonial literature at university and reading parts of Edward Said's Orientalism, this film is terrible for the way that it presents Indian people, but there is still a charm to it. And I know it's like a very kind of I don't know how to watch this movie without kind of thinking, ooh, that's bad, but also there is a charm to the nostalgia of it. But yeah, so like, I know everyone probably thinks, oh, you're so woke, but I am. I can't help it. Like, and I think with stuff like this, it's important to kind of still engage with media that doesn't stand up to the standards of your moral compass today. And yeah. I fucking love Indiana Jones. And like, can I act out half of the movie with my sister? Yes, I can. Is some of the set pieces utterly iconic? Yes, they are. Like the bridge where he like chops the bridge and just everything, like every story beat. It's like just such an action-packed movie. It's fun, it's silly, and yeah, I mean, like part of me like watching it again, I was thinking like, why the fuck does Indiana Jones never talk about Short Round ever again? Like, bro, you were inseparable from this cute kid that you were basically a father figure to, and like when you are with your own father in number 3, you don't even fucking mention him. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can tell why Short Round is never mentioned in film number 1, because technically Temple of Doom, I didn't find this out until years later, is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So there's a reason why he isn't mentioned in movie number 1, because movie number 2 didn't exist. That adventure technically had not happened in the idea of Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But when you're literally talking to your father, would you not mention that you've kind of become a father figure to a young boy? The fuck? What the fuck, Indy? What the fuck? Yeah, so they are the films that I watched in December. Let's look at the TV shows. I didn't really watch much TV show. I did watch a French TV show on Amazon Prime called Cult, with an E on the end, Cult, which is, it's a bit of a random thing to watch, but it's about basically the French version of Big Brother, which was called Loft Story, which kind of feels like what we have now with Love Island, because it was originally the concept, they were just going to translate it straight over from, I think it's like the Dutch version, which is the original version. They were going to just translate it over, but nobody wanted to buy the show, and so then they added a dating element into it, and so like the final couple would win Big Brother, or the French Big Brother Loft Story, rather than just one individual person, which is what we had in England. I think maybe the reason why I watched it is because, like, as a teenager and like a kid, I kind of did watch some of Big Brother. I remember watching the series with, was it Nikki, who obviously sadly passed away. That was kind of like the series that I watched as a kid / teenager. I can't remember when that was. So kind of in a way, like the idea of watching a show about the behind the scenes of creating, it was also for French practice, but it was kind of an interesting look at just like how many hurdles there were to get this show on air. And like it also showed the French media like kind of battling against reality TV. And I don't know how like true, it's based on a true story, but like, I don't know how true it was. But basically like the biggest TV broadcast service didn't right, I don't know where I got to because my camera just suddenly was like insufficient memory space. I was talking about French Big Brother show. Yeah, it was all right. It was interesting, and like they kind of did this weird thing with this character and made him a perv, which was a bit strange, but like I wonder if that actually happened, and that's like just fucking icky. But yeah, like it's French practice. But kind of an interesting look at the behind the scenes of a reality TV show trying to get started. What else did I watch? Oh, I watched the final season, perhaps, of The Dragon Prince. Fucking cried like a baby. Beautiful, love it. Such a cute and kind of really interesting fantasy show for kids, but kind of isn't only for kids because I enjoyed it. But am I just a kid? Who knows? I also watched Squid Game season 2. Literally such a stacked cast. I mean, if you watch Korean dramas or Korean movies on the regular, there's so many familiar faces in season 2. But obviously, like, one of the biggest, I don't really want to spoil it, but one of the biggest actors in it who kind of nobody knew in season 1 that he was in it until a certain point. But if you're a nerd like me, you would have recognised his voice. Lee Byung-hun is like such an iconic actor. If you've seen Korean movies, like he's worked with some of the best directors in Korea. He's one of my favourite actors. I'm actually excited to see his newest movie, which comes out maybe this year or next year, because it's like he's basically collaborating with Park Chan-wook again. Phenomenal. But yeah, why am I saying that? Yeah, so like his character is interesting in season 2, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was thinking, like, normally with Korean dramas they're a one season and we're done kind of scenario, but as American TV show kind of influences them more, with things services like Netflix, some TV shows get more than one season. And sometimes it's completely unnecessary. Like one recently, I never mentioned trying to watch season 2 because it was just flat out just shit. Kyongsong Creature. I watched season 1 and I thought that was pretty decent. Kind of like using the horror genre as a conversation about Japanese occupation of Korea and like the sort of resistance movement. And yeah, like this creature being sort of a very strong metaphor for the atrocities that were committed by the Japanese Empire during that time. Season 2, set in present day, I watched quite a few episodes and I'm thinking this was fucking unnecessary. I'm bored. I don't really know what the point of this season 2 is. So I haven't finished watching it. But Squid Game season 2 did surprise me in the fact that I felt it was a worthy extension of the ideas, the sort of, well, it's basically a critique of capitalism and the power that money has over people, and what better way to show that than a game put on by the rich to watch poor people suffer and basically slaughter and play against others for a high cash prize. Did the message behind Squid Game kind of get screwed and skewed when Netflix decided to make a actual reality TV show out of it? Yes, it fucking did. And I never watched it because it just felt a bit icky and kind of like, what the fuck? Tone deaf, basically. Like, it's very much a critique on capitalism and you're fucking turning it into a product of capitalism. It's wild. But yeah, like, it's an enjoyable extension of that universe. So basically that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you've been reading, watching, and playing in December. And Happy New Year, everyone. Let's make this a good one. Yay. Goodbye. Bye.